Shalom and welcome to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, Messianic Rabbi Eric Walker. The political landscape of America is changing, and socialism is rearing its head in a more profound way than in any other previous time in our history. Conservatism is being redefined, and the Bible, if even referenced, is no longer the foundation upon which America is built. Here to talk about what's going on in America today is Joe Newby of ConservativeFiringLine.com. Joe is a 10-year veteran of the United States Marine Corps who wrote for Examiner.com for 6 years. His articles have also appeared at Newsbusters, Spokane Faith and Values, and other conservative sites. He currently runs the Conservative Firing Line, where he discusses issues important to conservatives. He is the co-author of Banned, How Facebook Enables Militant Islamic Jihad, and appears here on Revealing the Truth on the first Monday of every month at the 12 o'clock hour. Here to bring us up to date on America Gone Wild is Joe Newby. Joe, good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you. How's everything?
Everything is well, and glad to have you with us to kind of give us a summation of this past weekend's activities. A lot went on with CPAC, and the first time we've really heard from the Republican Party since the election in a kind of cohesive voice, and wanted to get your takeaway from what it was that you saw, heard, encouraging, discouraging, unifying, really get your insights, because this is what you focus on with the Conservative Firing Line.
I tell you, what I got was a rallying cry for freedom and unity. That's what I got from what I saw of it. I especially enjoyed Senator Cruz's speech. He ended his with the cry from Braveheart, that one word, freedom. I think that's something we all need to hear, especially these days with with what the Biden regime and what the Democrats are doing. We definitely need to hear that. I thoroughly enjoyed Governor Kristi Noem's speech, talking about freedom and using conservative principles in dealing with the coronavirus. As most people know, she did not close her state down. She did not enact the tyrannical coronavirus lockdowns and restrictions that we saw in places like California, Michigan, so on and so forth. And they're doing quite well in South Dakota, just as Governor DeSantis is doing quite well in Florida. But you'd never know that if you watch the Democrat media complex, what I call the propaganda machines of CNN and MSNBC and so forth. And then, of course, Donald Trump's fairly lengthy, but quite rousing speech. I thoroughly enjoyed that. It'll be interesting to see what he does within the next couple years.
Did you find that the focus was a 2-year vision much more than a 4-year vision?
I did, because right now I think conservatives and the Republican Party is still reeling a bit from what happened in 2020. It's still rather hard for most of us to get our heads around the idea that Joe Biden could possibly have gotten 81 million votes when he can't even get more than just a few thousand views on the YouTube video, or what was it, just the other day Kamala Harris had two supporters when she came to town. But we're supposed to believe that these people got 81 million votes. I still don't buy it, Eric, and I don't think a lot of other people do either.
That being said, it kind of is an is what it is situation, and so we have to really kind of take a look at what happened in the election, which was the focal point of Donald Trump's campaign was not on 4 more years and building a platform to advance the cause. And quite honestly, I hold him kind of culpable for some of the setbacks that took place because he had an agenda of his personality and ego that was not going to listen to strong political advisors that say, hey, get reelected and then you can go after all these other things. He went after all other things and didn't get reelected, and that was a costly strategic decision on his part. And hopefully logic will prevail and sound reason will prevail and good advice will prevail, and that should he become the Republican nominee, that he would take that under advisement, that that strategy did not work in America, and it turned, even if there was, and you and I both agree that there was something amiss, he did not endear himself to anyone in his approach to it. Therefore, there was nobody really willing to step up and defend him or fight the battle for him, because it was so over the top and very alienating to a lot of his base, who really wanted to hear, what are you going to do for the next 4 years? If
Right.
you can build on this great success, we want to be in on that. But if you're going to spend 4 more years tweeting and complaining about Nancy Pelosi and complaining about everybody, we really don't want to hear any more of that. We've had it. You've made your point. Let's move on to getting the nation on the right track and getting COVID under control. And I think that the people spoke, how they spoke and how the machine worked against him proved that for 60 years, the Democratic machine has been built around the advancement of their agenda and what they have to do to mobilize people in support of that agenda. And it's the Marxist playbook, and
Right.
they play it well.
Well, and the thing is that, um, excuse me, and I'm going to keep going back to this because there's no way that I will be convinced otherwise. But in my view, Eric, I've always said, if you want to know what the Democrats are doing, just listen to them. And in this particular case, we should have listened to Joe Biden when he said that he had the most unbelievably outstanding and super awesome voter fraud organization ever built up in the history of American politics. We should have listened. We should have listened when he told the voters of Michigan, I don't need your vote. Um, so, the thing is, if Donald Trump had said those things, you know as well as I do that the Democrat media complex would be all over that like white on rice. But that didn't happen. Um, no, because Joe Biden said it, the media will quietly cover it up. Meanwhile, the media makes things up about Donald Trump, makes things up about you and I and all the people who support Trump, and in fact, they're still making things up about you and I and everybody who supports Trump. Except now we are quite literally fighting for our ability to be able to exercise our First Amendment rights under the Constitution. And before it's all over, I wonder how much further is it going to get? How much worse is it going to get? Are we going to find ourselves? I mean, we've already had our Reichstag fire with the events of January 6th. What are we going to see going forward from the Democrat Party? Are we going to start seeing laws come out like you can't run a business if you support Donald Trump? or you can't run a blog, or you can't you can't have a podcast if your views do not conform to X, Y, or Z. Um, we've seen what Amazon and big tech have done to Parler and have done to conservatives for years. They're getting worse. They're getting more brazen with each passing day. Um, so I can't help but wonder, what's going to happen, what's going to come down the pike next. I mean, just the other day, what was it? Dr. Seuss is racist. I mean, that this is how insane that the cancel culture left has become, and it's only going to get worse. And I can't help but wonder just how much worse is it going to get before people wake up and start smelling the coffee.
There's no question that America is headed down a path of censorship, of a reminder of the 30s in Eastern Europe and the rise to power of the burning of books and the censorship and the raising up of a youth movement that is being truly programmed by an educational system that is introducing concepts which are anathema to Christianity, anathema to any conservative thought as to transgenderism and sexual identity, and taking that down to the to 4 and 5 and 6-year-olds that and then talking about what doctors can and cannot do and what people can and cannot say. These are all First Amendment infringements that the Democratic Party does not have any regard for the Constitution whatsoever. And 2 years can set this nation back incredibly, and the impact, the negative impact of these executive orders that were flying out the door, undoing everything that was done in the prior 4 years, has already proven detrimental. Just look at the price of gasoline. Just take a look at the unemployment rates. Take a look at the chaos going on in our cities. Take a look at what's going on with Idaho and Oregon in trying to take and make it so that Idaho has a beach.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, that you could buy beachfront property in Idaho.
That's it.
When was that concept ever considered before?
Well, or oceanfront property in Idaho. We actually do have beachfront property here in Idaho, and it's quite beautiful. We've got some very nice lakes up here, Lake Coeur d'Alene, Lake Pend d'Oreille, so forth. But I know what you're saying, and those 5 counties that are now looking to escape the People's Democratic Republic of Oregon and join the free state of Idaho. I can understand why they would want to do that. It's not the first time that they've wanted to do that. I don't blame them, quite honestly. I mean, look at what Oregon is turned into under the Democrats, under Kate Brown and so forth. It's absolutely ridiculous what's going on. You're absolutely right, Eric. It's not just Oregon. It's I think there's a county in California, Northern California, that wants to join us as well. So to which we say, hey, welcome aboard.
Glad to have you.
Sure.
It seems that there is this complete, and they call it the cancel culture. They call it, but we're looking at every word being parsed, every word being measured that pastors and Christians are looking at the fact that there's going to be a government that's going to censor what's spoken from the pulpit, that the
Right.
the government stops at the front door of the church is not going to be the agenda of the next 2 years.
In fact, I don't know. Did you catch what Gerald Nadler said here the other day? They were arguing. They were actually debating the so-called Equality Act. The act, the bill that basically gets rid of all assigned gender, so on and so forth. And there was a Republican who was talking about how this thing is way outside God's plan for for life in general, and basically sets Congress up above God. And Gerald Nadler stands up and says, "Well, God's will is of no concern to this Congress." And when I heard that, when I saw that, I mean, I'm thinking to myself, Gerald Nadler is going to be in for one heck of a surprise when the time comes. I couldn't believe it. But, this is a direction that the Democrats have been going in, Eric, for a very long time. Uh, Ann Coulter wrote a book called Godless about the Democrat Party. We're seeing it now in front of our eyes. They're not hiding it anymore. They're basically coming right out and saying, yes, we are the party of Satan. Yes, we are the party of the devil. They're basically coming out and saying it. So nothing they say or do anymore should really surprise us. What do you think?
The removal of every intention of the Founding Fathers, which was birthed out of the freedom of religion, the fact that they wanted a Judeo-Christian based country,
Yes.
with a moral compass which was set in one direction, and that was up.
Hmm.
That was the moral compass, was up. And we've gone so far away from it that it seems that unless you just clear out all of Congress and start over again, we've lost our way. Can we get it back?
Absolutely, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it's gotten to the point, Eric, that I think, what was it the fellow once said? We'd be better off getting rid of all of them and picking out 535 names at random out of the phone book. Uh, I'm at this point, I'm tempted to go along with that assessment, especially after I heard what Gerald Nadler said. My goodness, I saw that, and I had to play it back two or three times di- just to confirm to myself. Wait, did he really say what I think he just said? And when you play it back, yes, he actually did say it. God's will is of no concern to this Congress, and it's sad. It really is, because now you have a prominent Democrat admitting that, for all intents and purposes, yes, they are godless, and yes, they are the party of Satan. And it's sad. It really is.
Do you think that the Democratic Party is going to underwrite criminal and civil prosecution against Donald Trump to
I
try
do.
to unseat him and his financial power?
I do. There's nothing I would put against the Democrat Party, Eric. I've come to that conclusion. This is a party that has wanted to, or just since the election, has wanted to strike his name, make sure that his name does not appear on any federal buildings. Make sure that, I mean, there was a representative put up a bill to remove his name, or to make sure his name is not on any federal building, and to make sure that he is never buried in Arlington Cemetery. Eric, these people are insane with their Trump derangement. It's every day in every way, and it's not just the Democrats. It's the media as well. It's social media. It's the Zuckerbergs, the Dorseys. They're infected with it as well. And you turn on CNN, you turn on MSNBC for any more than 30 minutes at a time, and you're going to hear it and you're going to see it. And there is nothing they would do or put forward that would surprise me anymore.
Joan, looking back through history, have we ever seen anything this intense? I guess McCarthyism would be the closest we've ever seen to something like this. And
Yes.
you would think that we had evolved to becoming an educated society and would be aware of this type of persecution. And it looks the same.
It does. And just the other day, I put something out on Twitter, and I said at this point, it's fair to say that the only difference really between the modern Democrat Party and the communists who ran the former Soviet Union is native language. And at this point, that's exactly what I'm seeing. I really don't see any difference between the two entities. I really don't.
The whole thing is just so preposterous, and any educated person would have to be able to take a look at what is happening in states with Republican leadership and states with Democratic leadership as to some of the atrocities. What Cuomo is doing in New York, what's happening in California is atrocious. People defecating on the street, people living on the street, the homeless problem, the opening up of borders to the point where they're talking about that in the first month, over 1 million people will cross that border, will not be screened for COVID, will not be vetted in any way, and will come in to this country unfettered. And a country without borders is not a country.
It's not. And if it were up to Biden, there would not even be any deportation of the criminals, the rapists, the murders, and that was in his one of his executive orders. That was in a memo to ICE to release all illegals and to not deport them. Fortunately, though, there was a federal judge who said, "Whoa, wait a minute, no, you can't just unilaterally, just thumb your nose at federal law." And so, fortunately, we have at least one federal judge in the entire country who is willing to stand up for the rule of law and block Biden's deportation executive order. So I am happy to see that. But there's a whole slew of other executive orders there that I find very concerning. And some of them, yes, they do involve immigration. But you're absolutely right. I mean, this is worse than Obama ever was, in all honesty.
Well, obviously Joe Biden is not running the country. He doesn't have the wherewithal. So it's really a horse with no head, and the ones that are being pinned to the head of it are taking this country down a direction that it will be hard, even in 2 years,
Right.
of the damage that they're doing can possibly be undone. A $1.9 trillion package that includes hundreds of millions of dollars for things that have nothing to do with COVID relief, have nothing to,
Right.
and the populace, the people are not turning out in numbers in writing to their congressmen and holding Congress accountable
Right.
for the fact that your vote, your election, and that's the only thing we have in control over what our senators and what our representatives do, is
Right.
to tell them their job is on the line and we will fight your reelection unless you change your position.
Right.
But that does not seem to be happening.
No, it doesn't. I think because the media has effectively cowed a number of people. Um, Words mean things, Eric, and words are selected to have certain connotation, and they're selected to have a particular reaction. So when you call half of the population of the United States domestic terrorists, when you call half of the population of the United States insurrectionists because they question the validity of the vote, um, that and you keep calling them that over and over again, the way CNN, MSNBC, the Washington Post, the New York Times, and others have done and continue to do to this very day. Um, that has a tendency to want to make people want to be quiet because they don't want to be seen. No one wants to be seen as an insurrectionist or, uh, any of these other things that the media is now referring to us as. We're literally at a point now, Eric, where if your views fall to the right of Joseph Stalin, the media has you pegged as an insurrectionist, a seditionist, and a traitor to Joe Biden and the Democrat Party. That's that's where we're at right now, and this is what people have to remember. And if people don't uh, take on their responsibilities as American citizens and don't exercise their right to speech, to oppress, uh, to reach out to their government for a redress of grievances, this is exactly what you're going to get, Eric. So you're right, and I'm not surprised to see that.
Yeah, the level of censorship is stunning. We are being censored on Facebook Live. We're in Facebook Live jail. We cannot broadcast on Facebook our live program, and they didn't tell us what it was we did. They just said that we were in violation of their standards, and we've had the same programming. Now we're in our 5th season. We haven't changed a thing. So
Right,
all of a
right.
sudden now we're in violation. So,
Maybe if you opened your program with a stirring rendition of the Soviet national anthem, maybe that would do it. I don't know, Eric.
I don't know either. We're talking with Joe Newby of conservativefiringline.com, a conservative blog that I strongly recommend that you subscribe to and follow along Joe and a host of other contributors. He's with us on the first Monday of every month in the 12 o'clock hour for what we talk about America Gone Wild, because it seems that for the last 5 years that we've been together, America has been going wild. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to continue in this discussion with Joe Newby from conservativefiringline.com. We'll be right back. Shalom. I'm Messianic Rabbi Eric Walker, host of Revealing the Truth, Revealing the Bible, and revealing prophecy seen every week on the Igniting Nation Broadcasting Network. Our daily on-demand programming is available on our Apple and Android apps and on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Android TV. We broadcast live Monday through Friday through our apps, on our website, ignitingnation.com, and on Facebook Live. You can listen daily on our audio platforms on Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn, and iHeart. Our lineup of best-selling authors bring you the most in-depth biblical insights into the most pressing issues of our time, including prophecy, Israel, spiritual warfare, and a wide variety of contemporary Christian issues impacting the body of Messiah around the globe. If you missed the live show, you can always catch up on the Igniting Nation YouTube channel. Follow us on social media and join us as we endeavor to heal the nations with the Word of God.
With today's smartphone technology, news, information, sports, and entertainment is widely available and almost unbounded. But what about the information that believers in Yeshua are looking for? Well, now there's an app for that. Igniting a Nation now has apps available for Android and iPhone. With our app, you'll gain access to everything you would in our website, from our featured guests to our live streaming shows. Visit Google Play or the Apple Store and download Igniting a Nation's new app today.
Shalom. I'm Messianic Rabbi Eric Walker, inviting you to study right by my side through the Biblical Truth Library. Imagine having access to over 1,000 hours of audio and video teachings available to you through our website on a subscription basis or via our Apple and Android apps on an a la carte basis. Whichever method you choose, we promise to deliver new insights into the living Word of God as seen through the eyes of a Jewish believer. If you hunger and thirst like millions around the world for a deeper walk with God and the revelation of new understanding of the Scriptures, visit ignitingnation.com and click on the Biblical Truth Library or on any device with our free app. Don't let another day go by without receiving your heart's desire for a new depth of understanding into all of God's Word. Shalom. I'm Messianic Rabbi Eric Walker, inviting you to join me and my special featured guests twice per month with Rabbi Zeb Parat and Carl Gallups, and monthly with Dr. Michael Heiser, Dr. Michael Lake, Dr. Timothy Jennings, Dr. Mark Baker, Dr. Jeffrey Johnson, Drs. Michelle and Mark Sherwood, Dr. Kim Moss, Derek Gilbert, Peter Rosenberger, Brandon Gallups, Steve Fair, Stephen Black, for in-depth insights into Israel, prophecy, the unseen realm, the brain, spiritual warfare, overcoming shame, mysteries of the Bible, prophetic insights, the sensational and the supernatural, caregiving, addiction recovery, understanding the divided heart, same-sex attraction, and much more. We're proud to feature some of the greatest biblical minds from both Israel and around the United States. Check out our featured guest lineup and 24/7 feed on ignitingnation.com or watch by topic on any device with our free apps. If you can't find what you need, you're just not looking in the right place. Follow us on social media and download our free apps today. Shalom. I'm Messianic Rabbi Eric Walker, inviting you to join me and Israel's #1 rated guide, Edo Canaan, for our annual Israel trip. Our 2022 trip is now open for registration for our 18th trip to Israel. Our trip will take us from Tel Aviv to the Galilee, down to the Dead Sea, and 4 nights in Jerusalem. You will walk where Yeshua walked and watch the Bible turn from black and white to living color. Visit ignitingnation.com/events and download the registration form today. No, it's not too early to take advantage of our payment plan designed to fit any budget. All of our trips sell out, and we want you to experience this life-changing journey. Registration is now open for April 2nd to 13th, 2022, and we promise you, you will never read your Bible the same way again. And as we do on the first Monday of every month in the 12 o'clock hour, we meet with our good friend Joe Newby from conservativefiringline.com. Joe, welcome back.
Good to see you again, Eric. How's everything?
Things are good. We would be remiss if we didn't remember Rush Limbaugh and his family and keep them in our prayers. Rush was a voice of America that changed a lot of talk radio, put you and I kind of in a position where we could be heard and people would listen. And it seems that there's a lot of controversy, if you will, a very divided America, even over Rush Limbaugh.
Well, let me just share with you my personal Rush story, if I may. I started listening to Rush back in what was it, 88, I think it was. Yeah, I was working for a company doing field service and repair, and and there was this guy that was coming on the radio at KFI. This was in Southern California, coming on the radio at KFI every morning at 9 o'clock. So I thought, man, I'm on the road, so I might as well listen. So I turned him on, and I'm like, my gosh, I like this guy. um, and I've been hooked on Rush ever since. Well, when I first started writing for Examiner.com back in 2010, I remember I was coming home from work one day, and I got a call from a friend of mine. So I pulled over and I answered the call, and he says, "Hey, are you listening to Rush Limbaugh?" And I'm like, "Well, not right at the moment. Why?" He said, "Well, you ought to turn him on. He's reading one of your stories." And so I turned on Rush, and sure enough, there he was. He was reading one of my stories from Examiner.com, and he actually seemed to agree with it. So I'm like, I was stoked for the rest of the day. But that encouraged me, to think that someone of his stature, within the conservative movement would actually, deign to take his time to look at something written by, little old me. That really motivated me, and it still does, to be honest with you, Eric. So that's my Rush story. I do have one other that I want to share. Um, we used to have a parakeet named Critter. And back when Rush had his television program, uh, well, Critter would sit up in on his perch, and he would jump and going from one end of his perch to the other, and he would say over and over again, "Diddles Rush, Diddles Rush, Diddles Rush," and that was, I think, the only thing that I actually taught that bird to say was Diddles Rush. But what was funny about it was that the bird only did it when Rush Limbaugh came on the television. That was the only time the bird would ever do that. And I was going to at, at the time, Rush Limbaugh would have videos sent in from viewers, and I thought very seriously about taking a video of the bird and sending it into him. But it was kind of funny. We were all kind of afraid at the time that my wife's aunt, who passed away here some years back, she hated Rush Limbaugh with a passion. She was a big time liberal, and she hated Rush Limbaugh with a passion. And everybody kept saying, "Oh my gosh, if Aunt Pat sees this, she's gonna freak out." And I used to think to myself, hmm, either that or maybe she should learn something from the bird. I mean, but anyway,
Mm.
that's my Rush Limbaugh story, and I'm sticking to it. And but you're right, Rush had a huge impact on the conservative movement as a whole, and and I know that he will certainly be missed.
He will. We've seen a shift in conservative voices
Hmm.
with Mark Levin, who was much more of a powerhouse than when he went off on CRTV and then
Yeah.
came back to his one show on Fox. Uh, there's been a lot of changes in conservative talk radio and conservative television because of moral failures and because of inappropriate behaviors. And that's been unfortunate because the credibility of some of these very intelligent, very well-informed voices have been stifled. But one of the problems I see is that the same stories are being repeated over and over and over and over and over again, and we're not getting the insight that we used to get.
Yeah.
So there's not a big difference between a Sean Hannity show and Laura Ingraham. They're pretty much covering the same stories. There has to be some new insights and new investigative reporting that's done, and I don't exactly know where to go for that reliable investigative reports. We used to have strong conservative investigative reporters. Maybe they're being blocked. Maybe they're being stifled because the sources are drying up. There's just so much money in play. Why isn't there a Hunter Biden investigation into Burisma? Why isn't there a Joe Biden investigation into his part in that? Those are the kind of things that are pressing on our minds that people are wondering, but it's not happening.
Well, you're absolutely right about that. There's a lot of things that need to be investigated. For example, we just had this event that took place last November called an election. And there's very few places where you can find any coverage of what's going on in the aftermath anymore. I think the Gateway Pundit is probably one of the best places you can go for that. The problem is that everybody at this stage, I think, is quite literally scared to death of big tech. They're scared to death of the cancel culture. They're scared to death that somebody is going to say, "Oh, you're a racist," for investigating X, Y, or Z. I've gotten to the point, Eric. I've been banned off of Facebook. I've been attacked as well. I know people who have been attacked even worse for trying to report on the truth. People who have lost, their livelihoods. It's not easy these days to report about things like this because you have these very powerful forces out there like Zuckerberg, like Facebook, like Twitter, like Google, that are doing everything they can to make sure that only one side of any story is ever heard. And if your point of view happens to fall somewhere to the right of Joseph Stalin, why, you have to be silenced. That's basically what's happened to you with Facebook Live. I'm convinced of that. We've seen this play out over and over and over and over again, and unless and until I think some of these states actually pass some of these bills, the cancel culture, the censorship is going to just continue. It's going to get even worse.
I can't imagine it getting much worse than it is, but I can see that the Ilhan Omars and the AOCs and the new appointments that are being made by this administration are cementing what we elected Donald Trump to do, which was to drain the swamp, but he never drained the swamp.
Right. Well, he tried. Okay. But as I've said before, I mean, it didn't take, it took years for the swamp to come into creation. It took it years for it to get to where it is now. It's not going to be dismantled in a mere 4 years. However, I will say this: I am very disappointed that not a single person has gone to jail over Hillary's violation of the Espionage Act. She had email servers that were illegal, uh, with material on them that was clearly illegal for her to have. The kind of material that if you or I had, you and I would be in prison right now. Here you have Hillary Clinton smashing evidence, with her, bleach bidding phones and smashing them with hammers. We know that she has violated the law. We know that her cronies have violated the law, um, but they're still walking around free. Why is that? And well, that's because, Eric, we have a two-tiered system of justice in this country. There is a system for you and I that where we have to, toe the mark and walk the line. We have to obey the law. And then there's a system for Hillary Clinton and others like her, and they can do whatever they want to whomever they want. And if you disagree with them, why, you're a racist, sexist, homophobe, right-wing fundamentalist bigot. Period. End of sentence. And that's where we are in this country. So I'm not at all surprised. I am disappointed, though, like I said, to see that in 4 years, not one single person has been brought up on charges or gone to jail for what Hillary Clinton has done.
It's the Epstein situation,
Hmm.
so many things that are so startlingly, shockingly disturbing.
Right. Very
That
disturbing. And let's not forget what they did to this country for 4.5 to 5 years with this Russian collusion lie. And that's what it was, Eric. It was a lie. All right. And you had all these members of the Democrat House, Schiff, Pelosi, what have you, excuse me, all of them. And what did they do? Well, as far as I'm concerned, they conspired. They conspired to oust illegally a president of the United States. Essentially, they were engaged in a seditious coup. And it was a conspiracy, in my view, to engage in a seditious coup. But instead of being charged with a crime, instead of being held accountable, they get reelected to office. And Donald Trump was impeached twice, but he was also um, acquitted of both of those impeachments. And we can be thankful for that. So, like I said, Eric, I don't, you know, it's going to be very difficult these next 2 to 4 years. But I will say this: if Republicans don't uh, get serious, and if they don't take back the House and the Senate in 2 years, there's no telling where we're going to be in 2024. Quite honestly.
well, that's a scary proposition, especially for aging Americans.
Hmm.
That we're facing uh, dire economic strains put on us that very hard to look at things like retirement
Right.
or what service is going to be available for quality of life.
Right.
The handling of the COVID-19 and this Dr. Fauci elevated to this position of godlike authority
Hmm.
has been preposterous, because it's like having Joe Biden drifting off in the middle of a sentence. Fauci's no different. I mean, he's changed his position 25 times on the same thing, but yet continues to grow in stature and credibility, and has said nothing.
Well, on top of that, he is the most highly paid government employee in America right now. I don't know if your audience knew that or not, but it's true. It's true. Yeah, he actually makes more than the President of the United States, I think, by about, well, I think it's like, what is it? Just a few thousand, maybe, if that. But yeah, he actually makes more than the President of the United States. And what has he done, quite honestly, other than being a failure? Other than telling us one thing and then telling us something else, and then not even following his own advice, and on and on and on. Yeah, I agree, Eric. It's getting ridiculous, and I think people are, quite frankly, sick and tired of it.
It's been quite a lesson in civics, quite a lesson in government, and quite a lesson in communism and socialism, and reading that Amazon has gone through and purged their book list of books that they'll sell based on certain parameters and topics lets you know that censorship, which is at the very core of turning a society into a communist or socialist nation, is that you take the literature out of circulation, free thought out of circulation, and then you begin mind control and start with the propaganda. And we've been seeing that all along, and now it's being put into full force. We've been talking with Joe Newby of conservativefiringline.com, as we do on the first Monday of every month in the 12 o'clock hour, to talk about America gone wild. I wish it was a better report, but it is what it is, and Washington is Washington. And we need to keep our eyes on it and prepare ourselves for a 2-year fight, and for conservatives to rise up, not in militant action, but in putting together the best possible campaign strategies, the best candidates, the best platforms, and to mobilize youth, to mobilize as much support as possible in your local community to take Washington back. That's the message of the day. It's a message you're going to hear for the next 2 years, right here on this hour with Joe Newby. Joe, always great to see you. Blessings on you and the family, and we look forward to seeing you right back here on the first Monday of next month at the 12 o'clock hour.
Blessing to you as well, Eric, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
All right, God bless. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the next edition of Revealing the Truth.